remind all of my colleagues that we are being streamed live on the web. So when making comments, please make sure to turn on your microphone and speak loudly and clearly so everybody who is joining us virtually can participate fully in our discussions today. So good morning again. Before we start the business of our committees, I would first like to take an opportunity to welcome our newly appointed trustees, Jane Carney, Jean Picker-Furstenberg, and Latifa Simon, who are joining us today, and we will look forward to welcoming Trustee Thelma Melendez de Santa Anna tomorrow. As is our Thelma. So she's not joining us for open session. And as is our custom tomorrow during the chair's report, I will yield the floor to all of my new colleagues to make comments. I do know, however, our colleague Jean Furstenberg will not be able to join us tomorrow, so at this time I'd like to yield the floor for any welcoming comments she would like to make. Trustee Furstenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate this opportunity because I'm not only honored to be here, but I'm indebted to the California State University system, and let me explain why. In 1980, I became president of the American Film Institute, and we purchased Immaculate Heart College campus in Los Angeles. In 1982, we became accredited by the National Association of Schools of Art and Design. And in 1984, we became part of the California Education Facilities Authority bond issue. About 15 years later, we decided it was time to become accredited or try to become accredited by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. And we went through quite a process. And I'm here today to thank Ruben Armiñana, who was chair of the visiting committee that gave AFI its accreditation. And I've been wanting to thank you in public for a long time, Ruben. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for me to do this. And Ruben, I retired 8 years ago, and I just want to say to you, the best is yet to come, my friend. The best is yet to come. And I'm also very honored that Governor Brown has given me this appointment, and I'm very proud to be here with all of you. Thank you very much.
Well, listen, on behalf of all of my colleagues on the board, congratulations to all of you on your new appointments, and we look forward to working with all of you. Additionally, I'd like to note that Anthony Rendon was sworn in yesterday as the new Speaker of the Assembly and joins this board as an ex officio trustee. Chancellor White, I know, will be speaking with him, so please convey our congratulations to Speaker Rendon as you're speaking with him. One other note, which is a bittersweet one, is I will note that our good colleague Margaret Fortune is joining us today and tomorrow for her last meeting at the Board of Trustees, and we will celebrate her exemplary service later in the week. But she has been dedicated and focused and passionate to this university, to this mission of this institution, and to this board, and has been a remarkable colleague, and she will be missed. But we're going to relish in the last service, the last couple days together. So I did want to take a moment to acknowledge that and acknowledge Margaret's service. So at this time, I would ask if Trustee Garcia would convene the Committee on Collective Bargaining.
Thank you, Chair Monville. Will the Committee of Collective Bargaining please come to order? Unless there are any objections, the minutes of the January 2016 meeting stand approved. Today we have 2 action items and 1 information item. We will also have the opportunity to hear public comments before taking any action. But first, I will ask Vice Chancellor Lamb to present the action items. Lori?
Thank you, Chair Garcia. The first action item is the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 4, the Academic Professionals of California. This was a full contract negotiation with the exception of salary and benefits, which the parties had previously negotiated for fiscal years 2015 and 16, and 2016 to 2017. The agreement before you for ratification will run until June 30th, 2017. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize the positive atmosphere in which these negotiations were conducted. Both the academic professionals and the CSU brought constructive proposals to the table in addition to arguments supporting those positions. I believe both parties can legitimately state that for areas of the agreement they considered to be important, significant improvements were achieved. The negotiations were also conducted in a very timely manner. While salary and benefits were not open for renegotiation, the agreement before you for ratification would make significant changes in articles relating to appointment, probation and permanency, sick leave, and other leaves of absence with pay. Staff recommends ratification. The second action item is adoption of initial proposals for a successor collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 13, California State University Employees Union, or CSUEU, the SEIU Local 2579, English Language Program instructors at California State University, Los Angeles. Both the CSUs and Unit 13 proposals are attached in the printed materials which you have before you. This bargaining unit consists of a small group of English language program instructors employed by CSU Los Angeles. This will be a full successor contract negotiation, and all the articles in the agreement will potentially be open for negotiation, including salary and benefits. CSU has given notice in its initial proposals that it will be seeking to make amendments to multiple articles within the current agreement, including employee status, performance evaluations, and non-discrimination. Again, staff recommends adoption. That concludes my presentation, Chair Garcia.
Thank you. We would now like to turn to hear from our speakers. We have a number of you, so thank you for being here. I would like to ask if we could keep comments to 2 minutes just so that we can get to everyone and hear from everyone. So I'd like to ask the first three folks to come forward: Patrick Choi, Carl Kimberlin, Fausto Esquivel.
Good morning. I'm Patrick Choi, President for Academic Professionals of California. Thanks again for everyone's support through this contract bargaining process, to Lori Lamb for the recommendation, and also to the bigger group of Board of Trustees for your support during the ratification. And also again, I'd like to thank John Swarbrick and the rest of the CSU team for working with the APC bargaining team as we work on the collective bargaining agreement for Unit 4 employees. So we will be at this 12 months later, so just have to live the process. I believe, unless I'm mistaken, CFA is the only other bargaining unit without a contract settlement right now. So APC has received several memos regarding the potential strike action in April. Some memos from the campuses are a little bit more ominous than others. But wanted to let you know that APC will abide by the terms of our contract. But in kind, we would like to make a request to the Board of Trustees and all of the presidents. Please do not ask Unit 4 to plan and participate in classroom activities for any of the affected courses. APC is not interested in performing Unit 3 work during any strike period. What we do hope forever is an agreement between both parties. Thank you.
Sorry, so the next, Carl Kimberlin, Fausto Esquivel, Courtney Yamagiwa.
Hello. Good morning. My name is Courtney Yamagiwa, and I'm a student at Cal State Long Beach. I'm here to inform you that students stand in solidarity with our faculty as they fight for a fair wage. I can promise you that students will be out there on the picket lines with our faculty during the strike. This is not just a fight for faculty, it's also a fight for students. Because of your greedy allocations of money, some of the best lecturers I've had have had to leave the CSU system to go to another university as a tenure track faculty, or to a community college for a lecturer because they get paid more. That is unacceptable, especially because you claim to be a, quote, leader in high quality, accessible, student-focused higher education, end quote. If the CSU is really focused on students, you need to stop neglecting the people who directly help us. Despite the fact that you recently voted on a 2% increase for campus presidents, who already make over $300,000 a year, you refuse to give faculty a 5% raise. Why is my tuition going to pay for an executive to make decisions for me instead of going towards faculty who directly help me, who mentor me, write letters of recommendation for me? That it contradicts the meaning behind the CSU system. I sincerely hope that you reconsider your position in this collective bargaining process, and I urge you to allow my faculty a fair 5% salary increase. It's not just the strike that will hurt students. It's your inability to accurately assess our needs by neglecting our faculty. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Jennifer Egan, Kevin Weir, and Jonathan Carve.
Hello again, Chancellor White and board members. I'm Jennifer Egan, president of the California Faculty Association. It is 36 days until the faculty on all 23 campuses go on strike on April 13th. This is the last trustees meeting before the strike happens. I want to assure you that if we cannot come to an agreement by April 20th after the strike, there will be more to come. I have one question for the Chancellor and the board. What are you doing to avert this strike? I have done everything that I can do to reach out to you and persuade you to make labor peace, to engage in dialogue about the situation of our faculty and the students, and how what's happening to the faculty is affecting students. This should be your first and most urgent priority. Rather than appeals from us in 2 to 3 minute intervals here before the board or at increasingly hostile campus visits, we have offered to enter into a genuine dialogue, and you and the board have been unwilling to talk to us. You cannot continually say that the bargaining process needs to play out. It already has. We're not negotiating anymore. We're waiting for a fact finder's report. The faculty have been communicating consistently for 2 years that 2% is inadequate, and you have not moved. This situation is unacceptable and unsustainable. Chancellor White, you are the leader of this system, so it is on you. The maintenance of your house has languished for a long time with stagnant and uneven salaries, an increasing dependence on a precarious faculty workforce, and inattention to how faculty are treated, how that affects students. This inattention predates the recession, to be sure, and certainly predates your position as chancellor. However, it's your house now. Your house is on fire. Please pay attention. Stop pulling the covers over your head and ignoring the red shirts and the angry faculty in the room every time you encounter them. This conflict will not end on April 20th. This is your responsibility. It's happening on your watch. The faculty have voted and are willing to strike for their future, their students' future, and the future of the CSU. I can assure you that the strike will happen and that faculty will withhold their labor, as personally troubling as that may be for them. The faculty are motivated, organized, and ready to go out. In fact, some recent communications using language from your office have helped in our organizing efforts. This will be the largest strike in higher education history in the United States. You are the leaders who are avoiding dialogue and fiddling while Rome burns. This should be your top priority, so what are you doing to avert this strike?
Good morning. My name is Kevin Weir. I'm a professor of sociology at CSU Sacramento and chair of the bargaining team for CFA. We've been trying to get your attention for a long time now. And maybe silence is the only thing we have left to say. I'm not sure what gets your attention these days. We've tried to send a clear message through logic, through empirical evidence, even through song. Today, I thought about standing on my head because inversions are a part of my yoga practice. Nothing has seemed to work. And here we are at the final Board of Trustees meeting before faculty go on strike in 5 weeks. 5 short weeks. I suggest you think carefully about what this historic strike on all 23 campuses for 5 days will mean for this board, for the university. Do you want this to be your legacy? Do you really want this to happen on your watch? I want to speak briefly about what good faith bargaining means and how CSU management has failed to meet this standard. Good faith bargaining would mean meeting with CFA to determine what budgetary needs might be required to fund a contract with adequate salary increases. That means bargaining prior to the budgetary request, not afterwards. It would mean bargaining promptly and with intent, not dragging things out for months or years. Indeed, this is not only a basic tenet of good faith bargaining, it is also California law. And I remind you again, we do expect you to follow the law. Good faith bargaining means acting with respect and collegiality. I'm pleased that my brothers and sisters in APC have experienced that, but we have not. Chancellor White, in your talks on campuses lately, you have said that you have removed yourself from the bargaining process and respect the professionals involved. I'm sorry to inform you that your staff have not acted very professionally. Let me tell you one emblematic story. It is one of many that I could tell. Last fall, during a bargaining session, one of my colleagues gave a presentation about how the low salaries meant that they could not attract and retain enough counselors, and that this contributed to an unsafe situation for students and everyone on campus. What could be more important than that? It was a moving presentation, and yet your staff, the ones you respect and think are professional, sat there playing on their phones. I don't know if they're checking their email, surfing the web, maybe they're buying a new pair of shoes. This is not professional conduct. This is the conduct of my worst student in the back row with his baseball cap turned down, playing with his phone, ignoring the lecture. This does not even rise to the basic level of human respect, let alone good faith bargaining. It is time, Chancellor White, that you no longer remove yourself from this process and actually give direction to your staff to avoid this strike. This Board of Trustees has lost the trust and respect of faculty due to this unwillingness to bargain in good faith. And that is why we will go on strike, unless you take action now to avert a major historic disruption to the CSU system starting April 13th in 5 short weeks.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Karpf. I've been a lecturer in anthropology at San Jose State University for 27 years. I'm also the AVP for Lecturers North, and I'm a member of the CFA bargaining team. I'm here to help all of you understand that the 60% of faculty by headcount who are full and part-time lecturers are being run ragged by the increasing class size and the stagnant and low wages in the CSU. As the faculty who disproportionately teach the lower division as well as the higher enrolled classes, my fellow lecturers are fed up with the stagnant wages and the lack of SSIs we need to be minimally eligible to even apply for range elevation. I know too many lecturers who are living in their cars. I know too many lecturers who are unable to live closer than 2 hours from where they teach. I know too many lecturers who are struggling, and I mean truly struggling, to make ends meet. Please explain to me how this supports our students' graduation rate. We lecturers care deeply about our students, but after giving our blood, our sweat, and our tears, we are tired of empty words and tired of the lack of administration respect for the mission that we serve. Chancellor White, I've had the pleasure to hear your comments at several of your campus dialogues. And I'm here to tell you that your touch tone on sustainability is falling on deaf ears. This is because the current reliance on and the exploitation of an increasingly contingent faculty of low-wage earners is neither sustainable nor in the best interests of our students. And as a bargaining team member since 2007, your notion that you are somehow respecting the bargaining process by disassociating yourself from it would be laughable if it were not so disingenuous. I know firsthand that your bargaining team is unable to make a single decision on CBA language without first consulting with the chancellor. So the notion that you are somehow not involved in the process is artifice. You and you alone possess the ability to have your team come back to the table and settle the salary disputes, and thereby avoid the largest and longest running higher education strike in the history of the United States. But that would take true leadership. If you would continue to refuse to negotiate in good faith, I promise you that the lecturers in the CSU will stand side by side with our tenure-track colleagues, and on April 13th, we will be shutting down business as usual on all 23 campuses. We honestly do not want to strike, but we most certainly will. Thank you.
I'd like now to ask David Bradfield, Lillian Tays, and Pat Gant.
My name is Dave Bradfield, and I've been a professor at Cal State Dominguez Hills. I've been a professor of music and digital media arts since 1982. In the past few weeks, I've been talking to all my colleagues in a very organized way, and they, like me, are all planning to be on strike and on the picket line for 5 days in April. This includes recently hired probationary faculty, as well as tenured associate assistant and full professors. To a person, they are pledging to be on strike. Even senior faculty who are counting the days to retirement are going to be on strike. My department chair said, I may be 50 days from retirement, but because I still care, I'm going to be on the picket line. I remember back in the CSUDH strike of 2011, she carried a sign saying that she was on strike for her grandkids, and I can really relate to that. My youngest child, now contemplating graduate school, is discouraged about the prospects of an academic career because she's seen firsthand how difficult it is to get by, especially for new faculty, but also for continuing faculty. Yes, this is a strike over fair wages for a group of workers that has been systematically excluded from decent wage increases for over 10 years. You may talk about how you value our work, but your actions just don't match what you say. The lack of fair, sustainable wages for all faculty is just a symptom of greater issues affecting this institution. The lack of fair wages for faculty and staff has a long-lasting negative impact on the entire university and the communities that we serve. So if you ask a tenure-track faculty member why we are striking, you will hear the following answers. We are striking for our students. We are striking for the profession. We are striking for the institution. We are striking for our colleagues. We are striking for our children. We are striking for our grandchildren. And we're striking for the citizens of California. No, I don't want to strike. I'd rather be teaching my music and digital media arts classes. But I will strike, and we will all strike, because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Lillian Tays, past president of CFA and PA Ledge chair. Since the beginning of the academic year, we have noted that Chancellor White's fora being held on campuses around the state have become increasingly contentious, even in unexpected places. We understand why emotions are running high. First, every faculty member knows that unlike other education segments, CSU employees lost purchasing power over the past decade. In addition, faculty know that during the recession, when we took a 10% pay cut through a furlough, the CSU was stacking money in reserves. The system's $2.2 billion in reserves were built in part from our lost wages. We also know that no matter what has gone on with the CSU General Fund or tuition, our salaries have remained flat. In good times and bad, our wages remain stagnant. As a result, when the leader of the system, who himself earns in excess of $430,000, comes to campus and tells faculty whose average yearly earnings is $46,000 a year that they can't have a 5% raise because other things are more important and we must live within our means, it is not surprising that faculty and staff have a strong negative reaction. When our chancellor suggests that he cannot be held accountable, he cannot put the toothpaste back in the tube because some economic decisions did not happen on his watch, people get furious. As the chancellor of the system today, you must take responsibility to correct the inequities that plague our system now. You may not ask us for patience. You and those who came before us have exhausted our patience. Finally, in a recent forum, Chancellor White suggested that the CSU budget only allowed for a 2% raise, implying that there was no more money for compensation now. We all know that a budget is simply a plan for how to spend money, not an accounting of how money must be spent. Resources are continually shifted around in budgets as needs and demands arise. If, for example, I budgeted $100 for my electric bill, but instead received a bill for $150, we can all guess what would happen if I told the electric company, sorry, I only budgeted $100 for my electricity. If I did not adjust my budget, it would not be long before I was sitting at home in the dark. In 36 days, on April 13th, for the first time in the history of this system, you all will find yourselves sitting in the dark. Faculty on 23 campuses up and down this state will be on strike. We don't want to strike, but we will. This issue will not go away, and make no mistake about it, these kinds of actions will continue until there is a fair agreement.
So we have Pat Gant, Neil, Jacqueline, and Tessie Reese.
Good morning. Pat Gant, President, California State University Employees Union, SEIU Local 2579. A little bit of an update. You notice today we don't wear badges, so apparently the policy has been somewhat relaxed to come into this room to speak to you today. But I still have an ongoing question about people on this side of the wall you treat as guests, or actually most of us are employees. And the added years of service on this side of the wall probably outweigh all of the years of service, sweat, and tears greatly on the other side. So please respect that we're not guests, we're employees, and we have much more invested in the system than any of you at any one time. I do want to offer congratulations to our sisters and brothers in APC on their agreement that is up for ratification today. Collective bargaining is a process, sometimes simple, sometimes complex. It can take a variety of directions at different times, depending upon the issues, depending upon the factors around the table, out of control of the parties, and also the behavior of the parties at the table. When everything works together, you get an agreement. When one piece falls out of the process for some reason, you have prolonged negotiations. CSUEU stands with our sisters and brothers in CFA for a fair agreement. We have a contract in place. Our members will go to work as per their contract. We, CSUEU, will not be doing faculty work on the campuses when the CFA is on strike. We will support our brothers and sisters on the picket lines any way possible within the bounds of our contract and our own free time. And I also want to tell you the solidarity of labor, if you test it, will come strong. Because I'm also delivering the message on behalf of the SEIU State Council of over 700,000 union members in California that have got the back of the California Faculty Association. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Neil Jacklin. I am the VP of Organizing for CSUEU. I will hold my comments for another day and ask you to respect my fellow union members and respect the hard work they do. Thank you.
Tessie.
Tessie Reese is passing, thank you.
Thank you. Then we have Rocky Sanchez, Rich McGee, Susan Smith.
Rocky Sanchez, Bargaining Unit 7 Chair for CSUEU. And this is the third time the subject that I'm bringing up is surveillance cameras. Imagine my surprise when I find out that campuses have not notified CSUEU that they have surveillance cameras up and running and monitoring. Why? Why have we not been notified about this? Aren't we supposed to be bargaining in good faith? Apparently, the good faith that you put with CFA, you're doing to us as well. And I support CFA. I support my faculty because I work in an academic office, and I see what they go through. Again, I'm going to go back to the surveillance cameras. Why aren't CSU EU headquarters notified about the up and coming and running of those surveillance cameras? What are you monitoring? Thank you.
Good morning, Rich McGee, Chair Bargaining Unit 9, CSUEU 2579. We keep hearing Chancellor White talk about the state budget does not cover all the possible needs of the CSU. We have to make do with somehow finding a way to do more with less, making the budgets cover, economizing where possible, and we're repeatedly told during bargaining about a process called synergy, using the experience, the wisdom, the skills of a group of experts to save money. I'm calling on CSU to live by those words and apply the principles of synergy to bargaining issues. Repeatedly, we are notified by individual campuses that they have a need, a policy, a change. No one in this room is going to say that smoking is a good thing. Yet we're notified 23, 24 campuses, including every single one of you out here saying, you must negotiate a smoking policy unique to this campus. Smoking is smoking. It's bad. We all agree on that. Why not one centralized smoking policy saying, here it is, we're done. We're now being told video surveillance policies have to be negotiated at each campus. This is a tremendous drain on your staff's resources. We're now being notified of bicycle policies. Bicycles are good. We all know that. No problem. Put them on every campus. Have one central policy. Let us please meet once, meet central, save your staff time, save the taxpayers the money, and apply those savings to the salaries of the faculty and staff who deserve it most. Thank you.
Susan Smith, CSUEU Vice President for Representation. I guess I'm going to talk about a few more mundane topics, and one of them of prime importance to us is the outsourcing of our bargaining unit work. There is continued abuse of our contract and language. You're constantly outsourcing our work to private entities. A most noted one is at San Marcos with the contracting out of custodial services work that we've had an agreement on for 3 to 4 years, and no progress is being made. They are supposed to bring the bargaining unit work back to us, and so far to date have brought very little of it back to us and refused to provide us with updates, and that sort of circumstance needs to stop. And then the second one is kind of a bit of an oxymoron because I call it internal outsourcing of our work. All 23 campuses and the chancellor's office continue to abuse our collective bargaining agreement by transferring our work to confidential class employees erroneously, by nebulous claims to assisting with negotiating. They abuse intermittent workers and refuse to give them the appointments that are needed. And finally, they also have started using a class called casual worker, which also usurps our collective bargaining agreement and sucks up our work. You need to stop doing this. We need to be respected. Our work needs to be respected, and the contract needs to be respected. And as your colleague Thomas Lee says, it's not just our contract, it's your contract too. It needs to be a process where we work together to make sure that its terms and conditions are maintained equitably for both parties. I want to tell you that I look forward to a harmonious and hopefully good outcome in our Unit 13 bargaining that's upcoming. I also, again, want to give my support to our brethren in Unit 3. We stand in solidarity with you, and I can tell you one thing for sure, despite the very nicely gauged warning letters about our participation in a faculty strike, make no mistake, CSUEU supports the California Faculty Association, and we will brook no breach of our contract by requiring us to do faculty unit work during this strike. I'm also very pleased not to wear the dog tag. It's really, really great. And to echo Pat's comments, we all are state employees. I get my paycheck the same place you get yours from, the state controller of California. It's all the same, right? I'm no more likely to attack you than any of the employees on that side of the fence because I like my job. So I'm not about to throw something from my little clear bag at you in any event. And as usual, I like to end on a little bit of a positive note by always supporting the university by which I am employed at California State University. Go Titans. I have no thing to tell you about Titans this time because we're always good. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments, for taking the time to be here. What I'd like to do now is, sorry.
Chair Garcia, if I might, I want to thank everyone for their comments, particularly our colleagues in CFA. I don't think anybody relishes where we all are today. I think we all recognize that we continue to be historically underfunded, and that this board, the chancellor's staff, our colleagues in labor, our campus leadership, we're all going to be better off if we're all working together in Sacramento to properly bring home the funding that this university system so justly deserves, and that will allow us to have the means to do the best we can for all of our employees. And so we look forward to continuing to work with you in Sacramento to properly secure the funding that this system needs and it deserves to bring resolution to this and so many other issues that face our staff, our faculty, and our students. With that, Trustee Garcia, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Monville. We have 2 action items. Before we move on those items, are there any questions, comments from the trustees? Okay. The committee will now take action on the 2 items presented. First, the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 4, the Academic Professionals of California, is an action item before the Committee of Collective Bargaining. Only committee members may vote at this time. First, may I have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. The action item, ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 4, the Academic Professionals of California, is approved. The second action item is the adoption of initial proposals for a successor collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 13, California State University Employees Union, SEIU, Local 2579, English Language Program Instructors, California State University, Los Angeles. This is an action item before the Committee of Collective Bargaining. Only committee members may vote at this time. So may I have a motion?
So moved.
And I hear a second. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. The action item, adoption of initial proposals for a successor collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 13, California State University Union, SEIU, Local 2579, English Language Program Instructors for California State University, Los Angeles is approved. All right, with that, nothing further being before the committee, we will adjourn.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. Trustee Norton, would you please convene the Committee on Campus Planning, Buildings, and Grounds?
I would like to call to order the Committee on Campus Planning, Buildings, and Grounds. Today's consent agenda consists of the minutes of the January 26th, 2016 committee meeting and 3 action items. Would any committee member wish to remove any item from today's consent agenda for separate consideration? May I have a motion then to approve the items listed on the consent agenda?
Move it.
Second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? The consent agenda is approved. That concludes our agenda for today, and the meeting of the Committee on Campus Planning, Buildings, and Grounds is adjourned. Thank you.
We've lost our chair for a second. Trustee Kimball, will you please convene the Committee on Organization and Rules?
Good morning. I would like to call the Committee on Organization and Rules to order. We have one public speaker, Carmen Ann Huxley, student from SULB. Will you please approach the microphone? CSU LB.
Hello, thank you for listening to me. I prepared a statement and I have a letter for you, Mr. Chancellor, for you to take a look at later. I'm a student at Cal State Long Beach. Go Beach. Education is very important to me. In 2001, while I was a student in CSU Bakersfield, I was a victim of crime, and it took me over 9 years to recover from that violence. I had to drop out of school, and it wasn't until 2010 that I was able to pay back my student loans by working at George's Greek Cafe. I took classes in Fullerton and in Cyprus, and I was accepted into 3 different universities, and I finally was able to enter into a program in 2004. I have accumulated so many units since 1995 when I first entered college as a mathematics major. To finally complete my undergraduate degree was a long-term goal. I have been told that I will be given a degree regardless if I have earned one or not because I have accumulated over 150 units and a timely graduation policy allows for me to graduate. I feel as though this policy does not take into account the credits of history earned. It would be a great injustice for me to take that degree that is not on my own terms. The catalog does not function as student rights. We're all aware of that. And it's clear that many policies that shape the CSU are done from a liability standpoint. And I want to let you know that this is harmful to the individual American student pursuing a traditional liberal arts degree at Long Beach State. I've spoken with the chair of the political science department, the Atlas advisors, the associate dean of the liberal college, and the decision is that I must graduate with a political science degree. I have been reminded that there are other students behind me that deserve a chance to learn, reminded about overcrowding, and I understand these facts, and that is why I am before you now. I want to make sure that I exhaust all possible ways to fix this issue. I hope that an investigation occurs under your authority to address the issues I raise regarding the administration in the College of Liberal Arts at Long Beach State. There was a knife incident on campus last week, and that's just another example of how stories change by the administration of Long Beach State. When I went to the Atlas advisor, the story changed, and you can read this and whatnot. But the truth is that students are not given the senior seminar that is required. And one of your duties as chancellor is to issue degrees, and I'm asking you to please address the systematic issue of not having the proper amount of senior seminars for students. If you ask the department, they will claim that the classes are based on enrollment, but there's some fudging of numbers going on. They claim that they have the authority to alter curriculum and that there's no mechanism in place for students. I deserve the opportunity to complete a degree of my choice, and since political theory route did not work out for me, I am asking to be allowed to complete a philosophy or a classics degree so that I can focus on ancient Greek political thought like I originally wanted to. I would like to eventually earn my master's degree at CSU and maybe even work for the CSU. If this is the end of our relationship, so be it. But please support my decision to change my major to philosophy or classics and remain a student at Long Beach State. Please investigate the political science department's compliance to your own expectations, and please do not mail me a diploma that I haven't explicitly consented to. Thank you.
Thank you. Today's consent agenda consists of the minutes from the January 27th, 2016 committee meeting. If there are no changes, the minutes stand approved. We have one item on today's discussion agenda, which is the revision of the standing orders, delegation of capital outlay project approval, and schematic design approval. A revision has been made to the item only, not attachment A. The revised item has been provided to you. The revision corrected proposal number 3 on page 2 to reflect approval of schematic design only of all remodel and utilitarian projects regardless of costs and not the budget. This is an information item for the board to consider revisions to the standing orders. The proposed change is in the alignment with previous board discussions to reduce the number of transactional items requiring our approval to allow us to focus on matters of vision and strategy for the system. Executive Vice Chancellor Steve Relia will introduce the item.
Thank you, Trustee Campbell. As you've indicated, the item is proposing to expand the trustee's delegation of authority to the Chancellor to act on behalf of the board to approve capital outlay projects and schematic design for projects with an estimated cost of $5 million or less. This is an increase from $656,000, the current threshold for minor capital projects, and that 656 was recently increased from a threshold of 634,000. This is an information item with the intention of coming back to the board in May as an action item. I'll now turn the presentation over to Assistant Vice Chancellor Vi San Juan to go into a little more detail. Vi?
Thank you, Executive Vice Chancellor Relier and Chair Campbell. The standing orders define the delegation of authority from the trustees to the Chancellor and to other California State University officials such as General Counsel, the Treasurer, University Auditor, and Presidents. The standing orders related to capital outlay were revised in 1999 to increase authority delegated to the Chancellor to carry out the work of the trustees. The delegated authority, as currently exists, allows the Chancellor to approve the budget and scope of minor capital outlay projects. Those projects are defined by Department of Finance based on the dollar value, and as Steve mentioned, that dollar value was recently increased from $634,000 to $656,000. So the Chancellor is delegated authority currently to approve those projects. And also, the board approved the Chancellor's delegation for schematic design for new construction valued at $3 million or less. He also has currently approval for all interior remodels and renovations, the schematic design approval, and utilitarian projects such as site development, utilities, heating, cooling facilities, landscape, surface parking. So if you think of presentations to this board, you never see schematic approvals of parking lots or utilities because those are already delegated to the Chancellor or his designee. you see projects for schematic approval that are over $3 million in value, or those that are architecturally significant, or those that have some concern potentially with a CEQA item. So those come forward to the board now. In July 2004, the board adopted a less prescriptive rewrite of the standing orders to focus on the delegation of authority in practice and intended to make the document easier for the public to read and understand. The rewrite was not intended to make substantive changes to authority delegated to any officials of the California State University. And when these were written, it eliminated some of the specificity that existed before, although as staff we've continued to maintain the previous delegation. The proposed changes to the standing orders are in two areas, both an expansion to the authority previously granted. First, we propose the trustees expand authority to the chancellor to approve the budget and scope of capital outlay projects from $656,000 to $5 million or less. This change is not expected to change the board's approval of the annual capital outlay budget or the 5-year capital improvement plan, or the categories and criteria for program prioritization. It is envisioned as reducing the number of project amendments brought before the board for those campuses that were not able to define its major capital outlay program and projects to be printed in the capital improvement plan. So for example, the projects that were in the former item and under campus planning, those were presented to the board in November of 14. So you see amendments, the board is presented amendments to the program after that date as a result of a difference in timing as the project was developed. The second proposed change is to expand the chancellor's authority to approve schematic design for projects valued at $5 million or less. Currently, the chancellor is authorized to approve schematic design for new construction estimated to cost $3 million. And for all, he's able to approve schematic design for all interior remodel projects and utilitarian projects regardless of costs. Any architecturally significant projects or those with significant, unavoidable environmental impacts still come forward to the board for approval. That this proposed change in authority granted to the chancellor will reduce the number of transactions coming before the board, with the increase in capital outlay authority approved by the legislature in June of 2014. The board is seeing an increase in the number of amendments to the capital outlay program, and this number is projected to increase over time. In 2013-14, for example, there were 16 amendments to the capital outlay program. In 2014-15, there were 14 amendments. In 2015-16, to date, as of this March meeting, there have been 25 amendments. Of these total 55 amendments, 32 have been valued at $5 million or less and include such items as parking lot reconfiguration, restroom additions, and solar power installations. In order to inform the board of delegated actions taken by the chancellor on the board's behalf, we would propose an annual report be provided to the board. We're thinking perhaps starting in July of 2017, but another way we're contemplating is to include it in our 5-year plan, which comes to the board in November. For delegated actions related to environmental review of schematic designs, we report to the board on an annual basis currently. So that would continue when we exercise approval of schematic plans that impact a CEQA item. That completes my presentation on the proposed delegation. This is an information item. Happy to get your feedback on the proposed changes. As a note, we had a calculation run looking at the schematic value of the new construction. So right now the schematic value is $3 million. And when that was approved in '99, if we escalated that up based on construction cost escalation, it would be up over $5 million. So that gives you a point of context in the request. Happy to answer questions. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Trustee Campbell. I just want to make one last comment, and that is that our plan is to for the chancellor to delegate to the campus president's authority to approve the scope, budget, and schematic design of projects that are less than $1 million, and that all projects valued between $1 million and $5 million